This video is designed as a training tool for social workers assisting those of the Buddhist faith in end-of-life care. There are approximately 360 million Buddhists worldwide, with large concentrations in Asia. Buddha's teachings spread from India to Japan, Central Asia, and China, taking on new perspectives and prompting the formation of several different schools and sects. This makes Buddhism the world's fifth largest religion in terms of number of practitioners. According to the Pew Forum's U.S. Religious Landscape Survey, all denominations of the Buddhist religion have experienced an unparalleled growth in the United States for the past 25 years. There are currently 2 million Buddhists in the United States, with many temples and churches in California. Buddhism is not only a religion, but a culture and a way of life. Siddhartha Gautama, also known as Buddha or the Enlightened One, was born in northern India between the 5th and 6th centuries BC. Through his quest for meaning and truth, he discovered that human suffering could be processed and avoided by living a life free of ignorance and free of the desire for fleeting pursuits. Buddha taught that one could attain enlightenment and freedom from suffering by understanding the tenets of the Four Noble Truths. Suffering exists, suffering has a cause, suffering has an end, and there is a way to bring it to an end. The other way to attain enlightenment and freedom from suffering was to follow the ways of the Eightfold Path. Right views, right thoughts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. The central principle of the Buddhist faith is that the meaning of life is experienced by living mindfully and with deep gratitude. Buddhism emphasizes that Buddha is a teacher, not a deity, truth rather than God, meditation rather than prayer, enlightenment rather than salvation, and universal life rather than individual soul. Buddhists may recite Buddha's name throughout the day in hopes that it will bring them strength and peace. Buddha is not someone you ask for things like a house or a job, but to turn to find peace and ultimately a successful journey to the afterlife. There are several considerations for Buddhist patients and families in end-of-life care. First, central to the beliefs and practices of Buddhism is the concept of mindfulness. This means being aware and present in the moment, and often it is achieved through meditation. Buddhists believe in the importance of acknowledging the pervasive suffering in the world and using meditation to ease the mind. Due to this, it is often helpful for Buddhist practitioners to be in as quiet and peaceful an environment as possible at the end of life to allow for time and silence for meditation. Tibetan Buddhist beliefs in karma and the purifying nature of suffering strongly discourage any form of euthanasia or assisted suicide, even when the patient is terminally ill and in much physical pain. Buddhism has a precept against the destruction of human life and a prohibition on taking life. It is believed that to interfere at this point would impact negatively on the individual's future rebirth, as well as creating negative karma for all individuals involved in orchestrating the death, as the death was not allowed to take its natural course. However, Buddhists also believe in the inevitability of death, that suffering is a part of life, and it is crucial to accept the inevitability of death. This inevitability is a central element of the teachings, that death cannot be postponed, and one must be prepared and mindful when it happens. Therefore, a Buddhist is encouraged not to use excessive technology to prolong life when there is no real hope for a cure or recovery. Most Buddhists want to remain conscious and able to focus on appropriate spiritual practices, such as the recitation of mantras and deity visualization techniques. And this mindfulness is often more important to the patient and family than alleviating pain. The fine line between not rejecting care for the purpose of ending life, but also acknowledging the inevitability and importance of death, can cause difficult decisions and moral and ethical dilemmas for families. End-of-life care for Buddhists has several practical considerations. First, if the person is a monk or a nun, he or she will likely prefer to be on a same-sex ward and to be treated by a same-sex physician. Patients may be taking herbs with a Tibetan doctor in conjunction with their care with a Western doctor, and these practitioners need to be in communication. In addition, Buddhists also believe that a better rebirth comes from an unclouded mind at death. Due to this, they may be unwilling to take pain-relieving drugs or sedatives to remain alert in the dying process and at the time of death. It is important to be able to say that he or she died peacefully or was very calm at the time of death. Patients of the Buddhist faith may want to have members of the interdisciplinary medical team visit simultaneously so that other time is uninterrupted for religious practices. In addition, in preparation for death, the patient may wish to have an altar with religious photos, candles, or incense. Practitioners can help to maintain this for the patient and ensure that it is kept in the patient's line of sight. Patients may want to read or be read to from the most basic text about end of life in the Buddhist faith, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The preliminary prayers orient the dying person to the death process and instill a proper frame of mind to ensure either a good rebirth or liberation. Ideally, the dying will have practiced the teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead during their lives in preparation for death. A social worker can ask the family if they would like to invite a monk to come and pray. If not, attempt to contact a monk for the family if they wish. It is important to make sure that the monk speaks the same language as the family, as Buddhists come from all backgrounds. After the death of a loved one, there is a period of special rituals and prayers for the deceased for at least 49 days. It is believed that the consciousness of the person can remain in the body for 3 days or longer after medical death, and that the consciousness eventually exits from the crown of the head. Family members will often wish the patient to be disturbed as little as possible, especially during the first 8 hours. The patient is not to be touched, except some family members may gently tap the top of the head to draw the focus of the consciousness upwards for a proper exit. The person should be left undisturbed for as long as practically possible after death, up to 3 to 4 days. The body is covered except for the crown of the head. Loved ones or relatives often set up a small shrine consisting of pictures of Buddha. In addition, incense is burned as an offering and more practically to cover the odor of the body decomposition. Offerings are made outside the death chamber and house to encourage the deceased to leave his or her body. During the death journey, the deceased is understood to take nourishment from the odors of the incense offerings. Many Buddhists also believe that they can assist the dead by accumulating spiritual merit. So during this time, friends, families, and teachers may chant mantras as they read religious texts to guide the intrinsic consciousness to a happy human rebirth. Since the dead can see the thoughts of the people left behind, it is important for the family to maintain positive thoughts to help influence the dead to also think positively. Family members are prohibited from crying or feeling grief during this time, as it is believed that this can interrupt the process of transitioning to afterlife. Ritual disposition of the body usually occurs from day 4 to day 10. Of course, consultation with the patient in advance and with the family on an ongoing basis is important to clarify which practices are important with this particular patient and family. The funeral rituals in the Buddhist faith are planned by the family members, usually the survivor's spouse or oldest children, brother or sister. The body must be treated with respect and is often dressed in a white gown during the funeral. In preparation, monks or family members recite prayers for the benefit of the deceased. Tibetans practice 4 ritual methods of disposing of corpses: a sky burial, cremation, ground burial, and water burial. The most common burial is cremation. The family consults an astrologer in the temple who correlates birth and death times with the astrological factors to determine a precise moment for disposing of the ashes. The ashes are usually disposed in the sea or on top of a mountain with a monk and immediate family present. The ashes can be disposed by the children, spouse, or any family member. For the 49 days after, the family will likely go to the temple once every 7 days to pray, offering flowers and fruit and burning incense. Some Buddhists will abstain from eating meat during this time for fear it may cause the person to be reincarnated as an animal. On the 49th day, a purification ritual is performed. The possessions and the clothing of the deceased are frequently donated to the local monastery, the temple, or a charity. During the 49-day grieving process, expressions of grief include wearing hair loose and unbraided, wearing old black clothes, and not wearing any jewelry. During this time, family members and friends are encouraged to actively do something for their loved one, to engage in spiritual practices, to embark on a pilgrimage, or to do good work. Buddhists want their loved one to realize the liberation or achieve a good rebirth. Assisting the dying to transition to a peaceful death and transferring merit to the deceased becomes the paramount goal of mourners. Lastly, the anniversary of the deceased is remembered with food offerings and rituals. Family members may wish for practitioners to assist the family in chanting mantras and prayers more so than offering words of condolence and consolation. The ultimate goal of the life of a Buddhist individual is to reach nirvana. There are many descriptions of what nirvana is like because there is nothing on earth to compare it to, and it is an abstract concept. Some say it is like a candle's flame going out when all the fuel has been consumed, while others say it is nothingness. There are some people who describe the afterlife as annihilation, the end of a person without any sort of place or state beyond this life. Most commonly, nirvana is described as a state of bliss and liberation where there is no suffering. The journey to get there can be long, many lifetimes in fact. Reincarnation or rebirth is a commonly held belief among Buddhists that teaches an individual may be reborn in other bodies, human or non-human, until the person is able to eliminate as much suffering in their own life as possible, and achieving a right state of mind and being through religious practices. This cycle of rebirth is central to how a person chooses to live his or her life, because how this life is conducted determines the circumstances and type of being the individual will be in their next life. Not only is this current life important for the next one, but this life is a result of whatever was done in their previous life. As with all cultures and religions, it is important for social workers to consult with each individual and family about their specific practices and the ways in which the social worker can be of most assistance to the family during this difficult time.